a structure of mystical and alien origin, emanating particles of abstract perspectives and reflection into the expansive nightscape to those who know where to listen. This is Monolith the Mythos, the Monstro Studio podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the new episode of Monolith the Mythos, the Monstro Studio podcast. I'm Manuel, and here with me once again is the extra transcendental being himself, Trey Spells.
Hey, what's up? Is this episode 5?
Episode 5.
All right. 5 in.
The pentagram episode.
For real. Hey, that's interesting.
Just trying to make things sound more occult.
Yeah. It'd be a good title for it.
Today's episode, we're going to be talking a little bit about what we saw, maybe what we did, up until we get to our topic movie of the episode, which is The Rainbow Thief, directed by Alejandro Jodorowsky.
Yes. And you're all like,
more known.
What is that movie?
I know. I knew. That's my thoughts going into it. I knew of it that Alejandro himself was totally not into the movie after he made it. Because it is one of those brought on by the studio director job kind of movies. And, you know, there's like so much that he wanted to do that they wouldn't let him do.
Right.
So he was just not as much into it as his other movies where he had more control over them artistically.
I can't wait to talk about it too. Because I feel like just talking about it is bigger than the movie. You know what I mean? Like, pretty
much. There's not a lot of people want to talk about it.
Doesn't seem like there's too much on YouTube or anywhere else about the movie. So we're going to do that.
Oh, yeah. And I have plenty of things to say about it as well. But
cool.
First, let's start off. So what have you been up to, Trevor?
Well, I've been watching a few things here and there. I've been trying to go to a couple places. Obviously a couple of our trip got canceled because of the virus.
Then the protests.
Yes, the protesting
the curfew.
The curfew. And now, I guess Arizona's number 1 right now for the most viruses. It put us on the map.
We're number 1.
Yeah.
We're not just a hot spot because it's summertime.
Yeah. we're surpassing all types of records this summer. So things cleared up over the last week. It was a little rough at the beginning of June. And I heard my cousin was coming out for the weekend. She lives near San Francisco, and she's been out here a couple times, but there's a few places where she hasn't gone to, and one of them was Sedona. And she came by and we talked about it, and I was like, hey, why I gotta go? They're like, well, we're gonna go Monday. I was like, no, we're gonna go Sunday, so that's when I can go. So I worked that plan out, and it worked out. So we ended up driving up there Sunday, and traffic wasn't too bad. I would say it's probably worse now because we're having fire problems now. I think it's bushfire. I looked up some of it today, and I guess there's like 3 fires happening right now in Arizona.
Really?
Yeah.
I've just been so self-contained that I hardly had any idea that most of this was going on.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? It's when you're trying to plan something outside of the vicinity of the, what do you call it? The metropolitan area. You know, like outside the skirts of Phoenix or Mesa or Scottsdale. That's when you got to look up to see, like, hey, is there a fire going on anywhere? And then you look it up.
Any flooding?
Yeah. We haven't hit the flooding season yet. That's probably later on.
Maybe there's an outbreak of coyotes and javelinas. Yeah. And they're having like a turf war with each other.
I think you just predicted the rest of the summer. So
cool.
We're going to have fires. The flooding's going to put them out. The flooding's going to,
attract all the wild coyotes and javelinas.
And, big tarantulas and scorpions and killer wasp. Yeah.
The
wildlife's going to go wild in Arizona. So, So yeah, we went up to Sedona, and it was the first time up there. I wanted to go to visit different spots. It wasn't my first time. It was like my fourth or fifth. Honestly, I lost count. I told you this a long time ago, though. Every time I do go there, it's with different people, which is kind of interesting. But it ends up always being in the same place, which is like the tourist spot, like the main street. And, that's where most people go, where all the shops are and all that stuff. And if a lot of people don't know about Sedona, it's a popular place here in Arizona, but not only just in Arizona, but in the U.S. And not only in the U.S., but also across the world, because they have a lot of vortexes there. And a vortex is when you can feel Earth a little bit differently than other spots around the globe. It just has different frequencies there, and it makes you feel different.
Trippy stuff happens out there.
Yeah. People come from all around the world come to Sedona, even to do rituals and stuff like that. I even had a movie idea about a ritual movie out there, but that would take some time and some money to get something like that going. But
we'll get there.
Yeah. So yeah, Sedona is a very spiritual place. You can go down there. It has a lot of crystal shops, yoga practice centers, and meditation centers. And I think it's kind of like a retirement city, right? A lot of
there's quite a bit of old people kind of hanging out in the outskirts.
A lot of snowbirds.
Of Sedona. Mm-hmm.
And it's also, I would say about 20 to 30 degrees cooler than a lot of places in Arizona. So which is kind of different too. Because it's interesting, because isn't it, when you say like we almost have the same temperature as Vegas, right? Like maybe 10 degrees cooler in Vegas. Like they get in the hundreds, right?
Oh yeah, they definitely do. I would say that maybe they're even like 5. They're always like teetering from 5 to 10 degrees.
Yeah,
either below or over.
And that's what's funny, because like Sedona's like, I'm not saying they're like it's in the middle between Phoenix and Vegas, but it's like it's still within like 2 hours of each city. But it's weird how it's like 23 to 30 degrees cooler than it's
that elevation. That elevation, man. Cooler temperatures. Go up a little higher, then you get to Flagstaff, and that's when it drops really low, really nice.
Yeah, that's where you get your snow. Does it snow in Sedona? I think it does, right? A couple times.
I think so. Honestly, I don't remember.
I think it depends,
being there when it did get cold enough to snow in the wintertime. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure it does.
Yeah. Yeah,
because when I think of snow in Arizona, I always think of Flagstaff. But I guess right now, in these kind of days, they were getting a lot more snow in weirder places.
For real.
I know the U.S. is. I think Milwaukee was getting snow in April this year.
Yeah,
or last year.
So definitely winter's changing all around. And
climate change is fun.
Yeah,
it kind of keeps you on your toes.
And I think you've seen some pictures where like didn't it like snow in Vegas just recently too? Like maybe a year ago or two.
I think so.
Yeah, they were like, I'm not saying it snowed, but just even having some snowflakes dropping down, and you're just like, wait, what? So
just having a thin layer of it, or even some frost.
Yeah, I remember they were freaking
it's out
out
of
about
season.
That. I think a lot of people forget about stuff like that when it comes to weather, because there's so much stuff going on in our reality. You're just like, oh yeah, I forgot it snowed in Vegas.
Also, it usually when those kind of hiccups occur, it's usually really quick. So, and then it's just back to kind of the normal weather. Back to the normal weather.
Yeah, and then you never know what's going to be next. Like you said, I'm not even focused on the heat because there's so much going on right now. But to finish up the Sedona trip, so we took my cousin there. She enjoyed it. She had a great time. Nice. I spent about a good $100 there. I think I spent like 40 just on sauces there.
Nice.
Yeah, I got a coconut sauce I want you to try. I haven't tried it yet, but it's a coconut sauce. Yeah, a coconut hot sauce. It sounds weird, right? But
Sounds contradictory. Because
Yeah.
coconut usually kind of refreshes and cools you down. And hot sauce does quite the opposite. So I bet that'd be interesting. I would like to try that.
Yeah, and I think it was made by a maker there in Sedona because the way the brand is.
Homebrew, nice.
Yeah, I bought that brand before, and I bought a different brand of it, but I bought this coconut one version of it. I didn't see it there previous times I was there, so we'll definitely have to try that. It's still unopened. I don't even know what to put it on. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like maybe a pineapple. Like, I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Maybe it's one of those kind of weird toppings, or it's just one of those kind of weird toppings that you put on like a glass of like chamoy or something.
I feel like it's gonna stay closed for a while until I figure out the right food for it. You know, if worst comes to worst, not even that it's worse, but if it comes down to it, just put it on some pizza. You know, like anything can go on pizza. Usually, I just put hot sauce on pizza, but I don't mind coconut. Maybe get a pineapple pizza and put some of that coconut on it before you know it, pissing everybody off.
Oh shit, that actually sounds amazing.
Yeah, you never know.
I mean, mainly for the pina colada part.
Yeah.
But now that I think about it, wait a minute. There's also a pizza in there as well. So now I'm a little concerned, but I'd try it.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I spent a lot of money there. I think we all spent money there. That was the kind of funny thing about it.
Yeah, I'm too cheap, but like I should next time I go there I should have more spending money because there's a lot of interesting stuff. I'm not usually a souvenir guy, but
Right.
maybe I could find something that could actually be an interesting little trinket.
Yeah.
Like you said, your hot sauces, or maybe I'll go to that one.
Yeah.
I remember the last time we went into that olive oil and vinaigrette store.
Yeah, that one's still there.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
I really liked the truffle oil that was there, but I think it was like $30 for like 12 ounces.
I discovered a couple other new stores too. Like there's one toy store, and it was like a lot of antique toys in there. I did buy one toy. It's a little alien head, and it's like, you know, like an 8-ball where you like shake it and it tells you like your answer to your question.
What?
But it's a little mini alien head. It looks like it's about 20 years old, but it came with the box and everything. It was only like $9, so it's like there's a lot of antique toys in there for a good price.
Not bad. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and I'd never seen that store either. It was like kind of hidden, like you had to find it. Let's see. I noticed a lot more people wearing masks down there than your usual. So
that's good.
They did allow only 10 people into a store at a time, so they still kept their rules. But yeah, I just did the tourist type thing again, you know, as usual. But one day I'll go off to the trails and explore a little bit, maybe go camping out there. You can just get a hotel down there. But it's so funny how every time I said I've gone with somebody different, it's always the same after planned story to like do it again, get a hotel, do more. It's always the same like finalization story with somebody that you went with. You know what I mean? Like, hey, let's do this again. We'll stay the night here, you know, do some off trail stuff. But then there is never that second time with those people because they go back to their regular life. But they want more. Everybody wants more out of Sedona. So.
Oh yeah, I know I do.
But I know you probably should go there with at least $200 to $300 spending dollars, just so you don't even have to worry about nothing. And we even went there. We didn't even buy food there. That was the interesting thing too. I noticed we didn't even go into any restaurants. I bought a coffee. They bought a coffee, and that was it. We were fine.
Yep.
So that was kind of a good way to save money, you know.
Yeah, I was just snacking on PB&J sandwiches. I got a Safeway.
Yeah, because everything's like restaurants, right? Like, there's no fast food down there. You have to go a little bit further.
Oh, there's some. They're like not in the kind of tourist area. There's.
You got to go off a little bit.
Because I know there's a Burger King kind of off the street.
Yeah, like you said, it's not in the main street area. But that's when you get hungry because you're smelling all the foods around. And you're like, oh, I can't just walk to a fast food, you know. Maybe there is though, like off the sides of the street, like heading into like the more community area wise. You know, you could probably find something there. Or just knock on someone's door and be like, hey, you guys got some food? You know? We're friendlies. We're from Mesa. Then there was some traffic on the way back. I guess telling you earlier, we would have got back 40 minutes earlier, but I don't remember any traffic anytime I got back from Sedona. Do you remember when we went? There was no traffic on the way back, right?
Nah.
Yeah, it was like fine. So this is the first time I experienced traffic down the way back.
Yeah. I think I was going to say it was because there was probably no bushfires going on when we were going back.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure when we did leave, it was after the one that happened last year.
Mm-hmm.
So we drove past this whole charred field. There's just
burnt
black
section
twigs. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's still burnt out there because on the way there it's still burnt out there.
I bet.
Yeah, they're not going to do much with that.
It'll over time become more like nutrient like dense and over time it should hopefully grow new like plant life.
Hopefully, if the shit just stops burning down,
Yeah.
But yeah, that wraps up for my Sedona trip there.
Cool.
So let's get into some movies, huh?
All right. Yeah.
What did you end up watching over the weekend?
I ended up checking out the new Spike Lee joint.
Oh, nice.
The Five Bloods.
Is that a Netflix original film?
It is Netflix exclusive.
Netflix exclusive.
I think it's one of those Netflix movies where it wasn't like made previously and then it went to some film festivals and got picked up by Netflix. Okay. I think Netflix went to Spike Lee himself and asked him, hey, we'll give you a budget to make whatever kind of movie you want.
Okay, so
and then this is what he did. He made The Five Bloods.
All right, so yeah, you just answered my next question. So now I understand the difference between a Netflix original and when it just says Netflix. So Netflix original means like they created all of that kind of thing, right? And then when
exactly,
because I'm looking at the movie poster now and it just says Netflix, it doesn't say the original at the bottom.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it'll say Netflix exclusive.
Okay.
Where it's like it's not being shown anywhere else, but it usually refers to they found it at like some kind of either a film festival or agent or whatever for the movie. Like went up to Netflix and like, hey, do you want to buy this movie and show it on your streaming platform? And they're like, sure, because as I've brought up before, Netflix will pretty much put anything on there.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's interesting to know about. I don't think a lot of people know about that. I always wondered about that because when anything that says just add it to Netflix and you don't find it anywhere else, you don't understand like how it worked out, like who worked with who and type thing. So that's what made me think about it. It was like, oh, Spike Lee, like he doesn't need Netflix. You know what I mean? Like he could just wait to go direct a movie.
Yeah, that's kind of like the sad thing, though, is that right now there's a lot of these directors who definitely deserve to have the kind of Hollywood studio budgets that they're putting into things like Star Wars, Marvel movies, or Disney remakes, all that. And they're just not getting it. So it's up to that. So it's up to streaming platforms like Hulu and Netflix, and they're the ones who are getting these pioneer directors to make films again, like Martin Scorsese with The Irishman, and then I think David Fincher did something recently too, but I already forget what it is. And I know that they had J.J. Abrams come in for Love, Death, and Robots, which was a really interesting anthology.
Yeah, I watched quite a few of those episodes. I did not know J.J. Abrams was involved with that.
Yep. And now, I want to say now the newest one is this movie, The Five Bloods.
Right. So, how was this movie?
It was okay.
It was okay? Yeah, I remember. I remember you gave me like a couple lines about it. I saw like the 15 little teaser on Netflix, like showing them, it was showing the Vietnam footage and all that stuff, and I was like, oh, that doesn't look bad. I like anything with war, it's interesting history and stuff like that. But then I saw Spike Lee, and I'm just like, oh, that's a little different for him, right? So,
because I don't really know much about Spike Lee. Right. I know that he is kind of.
I don't either. I see more of his name around.
Yeah. I know he's I know he's kind of a popular director, and there are some movies by him that I want to see. Like, I really wish I saw The Black Klansman when it came out, but I never did. So this is actually my first Spike Lee movie.
Oh, okay. The Black Klansman, I watched about 30-40 minutes of it, and it wasn't bad, but I feel like you need to watch the whole thing to get like a good story out of it.
Oh, okay. So you need the kind of the ending to kind of, you need the end to kind of figure out what was going on in the beginning.
Right.
You're saying? Because
I was like 30-40 minutes in on the Black Klansman, but I feel like the story was just finally building up. You know, like when those movies take like 40 minutes to build up. So that's where I was at with that one.
From what you've seen of it, you'd probably get the same kind of sense of the kind of director Spike Lee is, or at least what I like kind of introduced to him as in film, because I've heard stories outside of him, outside of filmmaking, and it seems like he's kind of an asshole.
Right. Okay.
And I'll see him like on like CNN or whatever, or like, and he also teaches classes, I think, in New York as well in filmmaking.
Oh, that's interesting.
Which is, it's pretty cool. But there's also stories out there where he's just kind of an asshole, and like, especially if you ever look into the story of like when he was doing the Old Boy remake in 2013.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
I forgot he did the remake.
But just to go into that really quickly, he or a manager or agent of his hired a graphics designer to create like 5 movie posters based on the Old Boy remake, and they weren't going to really pay him much at first, but the graphics designer was psyched about it, and so he did it anyway. He spent 2 months making 5 posters, and he sent it out to Spike Lee's people, and they're like, okay, we'll get back with you, and they never really did for like months. Then what ended up happening, they made their own poster based off of one of them, and it looked really crappy compared to how it was. And the graphics designer kind of like freaked out, like, hey, what the hell? You guys made your own poster based off of the kind of template I gave you, and you're not even giving me credit for it. Spike Lee's people like got back to him saying, oh, you're ungrateful, whatever, we're not going to pay you. So then after that happened, Spike Lee uploaded, I think on his website, the 5 posters that the graphics designer made, and put down copyright Spike Lee Productions, whatever, on the bottom of it.
Oh, geez.
So it was just a whole back and forth thing until like ultimately Spike Lee just like went on tour. He was like, I never met this man in my life. I don't know him. I never talked to him.
Yeah.
So
that's the weird thing about Hollywood. It's just one of those stories where you're just like, you don't know what to believe. It's just there. It could, like you could have worse stories about somebody, I guess.
It's not the worst story, but it's still not great.
Yeah. It's not a good look, but it is what it is, what happened,
It is what it is. There are plenty of stories, especially with a lot of people that I look up to in filmmaking or anything in general. But that's why I feel like it's always important to separate the art from the artist. And that's what I did going into watching The Five Bloods, it being, my first Spike Lee joint. So I also like that he calls his movie Joints. That's pretty interesting.
So what made you, like, despite all that, what made you want to just, I'm going to watch it?
I think it's just the times right now. I've heard a lot about this guy, but I've never seen any of his movies. And I hear he does things, he tries to do things in an interesting way, narratively. So I figured, I'll just jump right into it. Like I remember initially I was tired. It was like, I don't know if I want to get into it. I think Friday or Saturday I watched it.
Yeah, because it's 2 hours and 34 minutes. So
Yeah.
it looks like a long movie.
But I threw it on anyway, and it definitely did kind of like wake me up from that tiredness, but not. It didn't initially get me, hyped.
Right.
I didn't get like a lot of excitement, especially like towards the second half.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely.
Wait, so you're saying the first half was better than the second half?
Yeah, I would say that the first like the setup was more especially the setup was more interesting than I would say like the way that the second half played out.
Mm-hmm.
But because there was also a lot more.
That's not a good
weird
sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially since there's a lot more interesting things going on in the first half, mainly with editing, the way that like the characters are introduced, the dialogues that they had. They were really fun because it's the movie follows these 4 Vietnam veterans. They call themselves the 5 Bloods. Like the movie's.
I was trying to figure it out, but yeah, okay, now I get it.
Well,
yeah.
they call themselves the Bloods, but there's 5 of them, so it's the 5 Bloods.
Okay.
But one of them died in action, and so they're all going back to Vietnam to find his remains and bring him back to the United States for a proper burial.
Oh, wow. So I watched about another movie I watched for only about 15 minutes. I guess I just can't get through a Spike Lee film. I mean, maybe I just watch them at random times. Because The Black Klansman I watched at a friend's house, but I didn't get to finish it because other things are happening. And then this time I'm watching it at work, so I didn't get to finish it. So so I'm watching this movie on my phone at work. So I feel like it's a movie I probably should sit down at home and watch it, not through my phone. So, but I was like 15 minutes in, and it seems like it's already moving fast pace, and that's what makes you. That's what made me realize what you just said. The first half, the pacing, the editing, a lot more going on, right?
Mm-hmm. Especially with the way that it transitions from back then in Vietnam to the way things are right now, because it's definitely taking that Grand Budapest Hotel approach with having different aspect ratios representing different time periods.
Yeah.
The present day being being shot in an anamorphic ratio, and then the Vietnam, being the 4:3. But the way that they transition from one to the other is kind of, I want to say it's interesting, but it's also really jarring, and probably won't stand the test of time, because what I've learned in film school, and what I kind of feel like, what I feel like is true, you don't want to have transitions. Yeah. You just want to just have a straight cut from one shot to the next. Yeah. And that's what Wes Anderson did in the Grand Budapest Hotel. But Spike Lee decided, I'm going to just quickly squeeze from widescreen to a square. Just have that move like really fast. So the black bars kind of like go from top and bottom to side. It just the picture just kind of squishes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'll get.
I was noticing that too.
Sometimes you'll get scenery or people walking across. Rotoscoped into the next scene, to the next shot in the different time period, and that makes it even like all the more jarring.
Yeah,
and it's a risky thing. I want to say I commend him for that. Try and get out, but it's not something you want to like keep doing throughout your career. I don't feel like he does. It definitely feels like something it's just for this movie.
I feel like
which is fine.
I wonder if he doesn't have a theme to his movies. Maybe you can correct me on that.
I have no idea. I wouldn't be able to tell you.
I can't tell either. I hear his name is like bigger than his movies. right? That's the way I look at it. Like I've heard his name throughout years. I'm just like, well, what movie did he make? Like I'm
pretty sure there are
and I
big
hope I'm
movies
not,
that
like being
it's probably
ignorant.
going to be one of those movies where we'll hear about it and be like, oh, Spike Lee made that movie. Oh,
Yeah.
it's probably one of those. And like, it makes me kind of feel bad, but
But it's
just never
also
seen
like
it.
it's also not like, oh, Spike Lee made that movie. Oh, I'm not watching that. It's not that
No.
either, you
Oh,
know.
no.
It's just like I just haven't came across the movie like
Right.
Spike Lee.
Exactly.
I think the Black Klansman is the most I've ever heard about. Maybe because it was like the story of it, the racial things going on.
Just like,
Did this movie have any racial things going on?
oh yeah. The movie, throughout the whole movie, you have characters. They'll bring up historic Black people,
Right.
and like, oh, they did this and this, or like, oh, this, he was like, the first, like revolutionary, fighting for our side all the way back in like the late 1700s. It happens so much that it gets to a point where, okay, this is definitely just Spike Lee just wanted to bring it up just to put it in your face about it.
Right, at the right time.
Like, it makes sense. It kind of makes sense that the characters would bring it up in the moment, but it also like just smothers you with it by having it cut to like a still photo or a news clip with them talking over it of like what's going on with them. So again, it's just another jarring thing that Spike Lee does in this movie.
It's a coincidence that it came out at around this time. So
yeah, I think the times are just getting like more and more, realistic in that sense.
And coincidental times when movies are released. You know what I mean? Like, hey, let's put out the movies that are matching up nowadays times. Because I always call movies hieroglyphics. Hieroglyphics of what's happening or what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's the way I always look at it that way. Because there's hieroglyphics in every country, every language, no matter what race, whatever language you are. But America is always the movie part. Like, hey, this is how it's going to go down. They've been doing that for years. Like, we've seen how things played out,
Yeah.
But that's another conversation for another day, a long conversation. To wrap up the Five Bloods, though, what would you give it out of 10 there?
Honestly, just as it was going on, like, it kept doing, those jarring things. You had good performances from the main cast. Like, you definitely feel like, oh, they get along, they just get along so well, and it's just really fun to kind of watch them interact. But there's too many weirdness kind of going on. There's scenes that drag out. There's scenes that are just missing. Like, they'll be like they're fighting in the jungle, like literally at gunpoint, and then it just cuts to the next day. They're walking out of the jungle to meet the tour guide to leave.
I hate those type scenes.
It doesn't refer back, and it doesn't go back to like what happened. like how did it de-escalate?
how it got finished, right? Oh, that always bugs me in movies. That could bug a lot of people, actually.
And also, like, there's just certain like, I won't go like into it to like spoil it all. Certain characters just become like less and less likable, and like kind of at the end, it's just it tries to kind of redeem them, but it's like no,
didn't redeem.
Doesn't
itself.
really work. Kind of like what I was mentioning about Howie, Adam Sandler's character in Uncut Gems last week.
Yeah.
That like, he, especially since he's just doing like, he's just making the situation worse and worse for himself.
Yeah.
Like Howie, he would always, every time he, like how Howie and Uncut Gems, like Adam Sandler, right after he pawned someone else's jewelry or belongings, and he just starts sending photos of the cash that he got for pawning someone else's property, and like sending it to someone else. Hey, look at the money I got. Yeah. It's like, dude, fuck you.
Yeah,
that's kind of like what went down like towards the end of this movie. But
where you kind of where you stop feeling for the character, kind of at times.
Kind of, yeah. But then all the ones that do kind of make it out, they get a happy ending.
Right.
And the movie just end, it has to go to, the Black Lives Matter congregation, at a college, or like, we gotta, look at all this other, stuff, and then, it wraps up nicely, but it's just, I don't know, I don't really feel like it's really earned that
Right.
as a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels good, but it's just not as a movie.
Would you like the IMDb score first before you give your score? And would you want to agree with it or disagree? See where it's at?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So
throw it at me.
IMDb gave it a 6.8 out of 10. What would you like to give it? 6.8.
I would honestly give it a 4.
Give it a 4. Okay.
Because I was thinking 5 early on,
right?
But kind of like thinking about it, to me at least, it's not a movie that I want to kind of go back to. I'm not going to get anything out of it rewatching it.
Yeah,
and just thinking about it more and more, I just felt like.
What about recommending it?
I'm not sure. Maybe that's kind of like why I was kind of stuck between a 4 and a 5, because just I don't know if I would actually. Yeah, because it's not like a guilty pleasure movie either. I guess you can kind of get a sense that maybe it had like a bit of a rushed production, but not really too much. It would still, it has some good shots sometimes. It has some questionable shots sometimes, and I don't know. There's just like too much kind of like butting heads like within it. So, like I would probably just give it a strong 4, light 5, something like that out of 10.
It's 4.5.
Yeah.
4.5.
All right. So Trey, what movie have you watched recently?
Well, I have been hearing about the King of Staten Island. I've been hearing about it from a few rappers' pages. Check them out, especially Machine Gun Kelly, which is, I guess, good friends with Pete Davidson, which is the star of the film, and Machine Gun Kelly actually also has a little cameo in it. I thought it'd be a little bit bigger, but it's just a small, quick scene. MGK plays a tattoo artist that Pete Davidson wants to see and be an apprentice for him, because that's one of his things he wants to do is make tattoos and do tattoos. But the funny thing is his tattoos are really bad. Like they're so bad. They're all comical. Oh, no. No one takes them seriously. But that's not even the story of the movie. The story of the movie. So he plays a guy named Scott Carlin. By the way, it's directed by Judd Apatow, which also directed 40-Year-Old Virgin, Trainwreck, and Knocked Up. I haven't seen Trainwreck, but I'd stay away from Amy Schumer's movies. I'm not a fan of her. But anyways, so I was like, oh, wow, I haven't heard about that director in a while. I'm surprised he hasn't made more films.
Yeah.
So I decided to check this one out, and it's about he's kind of like a loser at home. I think he's portraying a 24-year-old. He has a sister going to college. He just lives with his mom. His father died. His father died as a firefighter, which in real life his father did die in a fire, being a firefighter.
Oh wow!
Yeah, his real dad died in the 9/11 thing.
Oh wow!
Yeah, he was a firefighter. Yeah, during all that rumbleness, or whatever you want to call that. They don't say that story in this movie, but they just say his dad died. Which is interesting because I noticed I've only seen, this is the second Pete Davidson movie I've seen, in which I don't think he has many movies. I think this is the only second movie he has. And I noticed the realism with his movies, even though he's not directing it or writing it. I feel like he only wants to do a movie if it can relate to a generation of like maybe 25-year-olds and under. Like it can also relate to 30-year-olds and under, but like it gives people a what do you saw? It gives them a sense of like, hey, even though what age you are, you could still make it out of this, you know? Because I feel like we live in a rough time with these generations of kids growing up, teenagers, you know? Like, oh, what am I going to do with my life? Or how long am I going to live with my parents? Or if I'm going to go to college. And I think that's what this focuses on. So his sister goes to college, you know, and then she leaves and, you know, it's just him and his mom. You know, he lives with his mom and he hangs out with his stoner friends and stuff like that. You know, it just, like his mom ends up meeting another firefighter. Coincidence. You know, he gets upset about that. And he gets very jealous of it. He has emotional problems. You know, he smokes a lot of weed and stuff like that. He just can't get his shit together at all. Like no matter what he does. And he doesn't try hard either, which makes it tougher. It's almost like he's okay with the mindset he's got. You know what I mean? Like he's not an asshole or anything. He just looks at like something like, oh, well, you're gonna fuck up that way no matter what anyways, or you know. And then like he's comfortable with living in like kind of mediocrity. He doesn't need to put any effort into trying to be better, right? So like he just kind of maintains kind of like, you know, his like low level that he's at. Yeah, like I said, and he's not an asshole. He's very observant with others and see how their life's going. He's very depressed on himself. He does make fun of his depression at times, which I think a lot of depressive people do need to do. They need to make fun of their depression, because if they don't, then they just live in it. You know what I mean? And I learned that from you is like sometimes what'd you call it? Sometimes the first signs of grief is comedy or something like that, or laugh about it. Or it's like the most depressed people laugh the loudest. Something like that. Yes, exactly. That's what it is. And I think that goes along with his actual life too, because he talked about his depression a lot in like interviews and stuff like that. So it's almost like this is the second Pete Davidson movie I watched, right? But it's just like, am I watching a movie about him, or like am I watching a movie? You know what I mean? So that's why it's so realistic. Like he's just changing the story a tad bit from his real life. You know what I mean? I feel like that's how 8 Mile was, when Eminem starred in it. I used to think like the whole movie was an 8 Mile. I thought it was about Eminem's life, right? But it wasn't. He just made it very similar to his life, but it wasn't the way it was. You see what I'm saying? Just like slight, you know, changes, slight like variables. Yeah, like say this is, instead of my brother, this is my nephew. You know what I mean? Like this is not my sister, this is my niece, you know, just like you change things like that. But throughout the film, you know, it's a kind of a slow paced film, but it's great pacing. It's always good. It's great pacing. Nothing feels like it was a waste of time. Yeah, like some scenes are kind of long, but they're great long scenes. You know what I mean? Like every interaction just feels so real, and that's what I love about the film. It's so real. Like nothing seems phony. You know what I mean? So other than that, like I can't explain it, like how the story goes, where you're just like following him around and like going through his you know, events of life. You know, like I said, his mom finds a new stepdad for him, basically, well, a boyfriend. And, you know, he's got to adjust to that. So everything he's got to adjust to, I guess, throughout the film. But you see how he adjusts to it. And I would actually watch it again too. That's the funny thing about it, even though how slow it was, just because of the realism. Like I said, I love that realism, where you can relate it to yourself, or you know this could relate to other people. And I feel like him as an actor, I feel like that's what he wants to do. He wants to make films relate to other people, but also make it funny too, in comedy. You know, because I think we're in a very sensitive time when it comes to reality, right? Like everyone's just kind of sensitive nowadays. You know what I mean by that? Like, yeah, like people are too comfortable with
they're too comfortable with what they have going on, that if there's any sort of nudging,
Yeah.
like even if even a different opinion from their own, they just lose their shit over it.
Yes, exactly. And that's what this film shows. Just like, because you're thinking in your head, like, bro, just chill out. It's going to be fine. You know?
Yeah.
Because like when his sister goes to college, she's all worried about him, and he's like, "Well, I guess I'm just gonna, you know." She's like, "I'm so worried about you. You're gonna hurt yourself." He goes, "Well, you know what? I probably am," and that's and it's like, and he laughs about it too. But she's being serious, but he's not. You know, like, but he's not like that emotional. But I feel like everything's so sensitive in our reality where you have to, if you say a certain thing or you act a certain way. It affects everyone around you. It affects your internal thoughts. You know what I mean? And that's what's so funny about the times nowadays. Well, I guess it's not funny, but you know, it's just the way we live in, world we live in
it's
nowadays.
Funny in a way.
Yeah,
not a ha-ha way.
I try to make
Definitely
it funny.
Not. Me too.
And I think it's maybe because
it's the only way you can really get through it. Right.
And I think it's because we're in our late 20s now. But being a teenager, it probably isn't as funny. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Because like sometimes I talk to a couple of nephews and nieces here, and they're teenagers. But it's just like, man, they're so sensitive about everything. And especially the way they take social media. Man, it's too sensitive. But at least this movie doesn't follow social media. That's what I like about it, too. It's like it totally left social media out of it. And I thought it was going to have social media because of the way it is. Because I know Pete Davidson, he's trying to get words across to the younger generation. But making them look as like, hey, it felt like a 90s movie at times, too. You know, where it's just like friends just hanging out, you know, just, you know, tattooing or playing basketball. It's like they didn't have their phones out. No one's on their cell phones in this movie, you know, stuff like that. But the realism was great for me. So
it sounds like they did everything that they set out to, you know, in a proper manner.
Yeah.
You know, and they kind of excelled in what they were going for. You know, that's great to hear.
Yeah. And it was just kind of awkward because I watched this movie with my mother, and he lived with his mother, so it was kind of interesting watching them interact too. I'm just like, oh, he's with his mother, I'm with my mother right now. We're watching this film. It kind of made him a little bit older. It made me feel better because he was only 24. I'm like, God, should have made him 30 or something.
The actor in real life is probably 30.
Because because they make it look like if you're 24 and you're not in college, you're already a loser. God, that's the way they made it seem, and I feel like that's how that's the way our reality is, right? Already,
yeah. That's the way it seems to be.
I didn't
now.
feel like that at 24, but I feel like that as like I get closer to 30. I'm like, oh shit, time.
And even if you do, you're not guaranteed to get any job, any actual good careers, because all the older senior like people, they don't quit.
And that's what's funny. I think he mentions that too. Like he does have his own belief of like how college works, and you know, like that's why it was very resembling to my thoughts. I'm just like, wait, I think the same way. It's like,
and it's true.
Everyone thinks, but we all see what college kids get to live at and what the parties they get to go to, the friends they get to experience. But we also look at it's just like that's just all imagery. It's all like phoniness at the same time. It's all temporary, you know.
Yeah.
But that wraps it up with The King of Staten Island. It's a coincidence it came out on the same day as The Five Bloods. So it came out on June 12th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it's funny, you watched that film and I watched this film and we didn't even know. Then it came out.
What a coincidence.
Yeah. So this movie is on IMDb, it gave it a 7.2 out of 10. I kind of like want to stick with that, but I'm just gonna give it a 7 out of 10. That's what I would do, because you know, like it'd been a little better if it had some more energy to it, but at the same time it's very realistic. But yeah, I give that movie 7 out of 10. King of Staten Island.
Very good, very good. So now let's go into our topic movie of the week. That is The Rainbow Thief, directed by Alejandro Jodorowsky.
Yes.
The father of midnight movies.
The father of midnight movies. Yeah, is that like his nickname or something at the time?
Yep, that's like his his
how-
kind of status as a filmmaker.
How did he get that nickname?
It started with his movie El Topo.
Mm-hmm.
After John Lennon saw it,
Okay.
he and Yoko Ono, they convinced his manager for the Beatles, Alan Klein,
That's right. Yes.
to buy the distribution rights for it.
Yes.
And it was played in theaters, all over the United States. But they were only, because of the graphic nature of the movie, they were only doing showings like midnight or later. And,
okay, that's right.
And then from there on, we get other movies of that kind of similar prowess, like Eraserhead, Pink Flamingos, all of those crazy movies.
But the Rainbow Thief,
this is one's different though. It's not like full range, unhinged Hodorowski. It's kind of held back, and you can definitely feel it watching it, because the studio, I forget whatever studio hired Hodorowski to direct the movie. I tried looking for a writing credit in the movie, but I didn't catch it, unless it was Hodorowski. He also wrote it, but I don't think he did.
To the Rainbow Thief?
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, I don't think he did. It shows some guy, Berta Dominguez, was the writer to the film. Yeah.
Somehow I missed that credit in the movie.
Did you ever watch the trailer to it?
I don't think I did. I heard of it in reviews or retrospectives of Alejandro, and they always bring it up as like, there was like this movie and another movie called Tusk that was made kind of like a weird period in between, in like the 90s.
Yeah.
Where he...
it's like... Well, I feel like you showed me all the other Alejandro films. It's just like, hey, let's watch Rainbow Thief. Like... I didn't know how you were going to take it. I thought you were actually going to say no about it first. All right, you were talking about how he disowned this film. Obviously, it's the most mainstream film, I guess.
Yeah, because it's it has a lot of like tropes, like the essence of Hodorowski. Things like there's the main character is a thief. That's like the Holy Mountain. The main character is a thief, and then he's looking after the nephew of the prince, who so he can get a part of his inheritance when the prince dies. So in a sense, he's a piece of shit searching for gold. The nephew is always telling him, you can be better than that. Much like also in the Holy Mountain, when the thief wants gold, the alchemist has him take his shit. Do a bunch of alchemy on it and turns into gold, and he tells them, "You are excrement, but you can turn yourself into gold." And at that point, he doesn't even want it anymore. He just wants to kind of better himself.
Yeah.
And there's also going out of the sewers is like El Topo, the mole. It's the second half of the movie, Alejandro. He lives underground, and then eventually he finds his way out, and then he gets all the people. All the deformed, outcasts of the town living in the mountain. He gets them to come out as well. Being living underground, breaks surface. That's another trope from El Topo.
Yeah.
So a lot of things like that. Also, it just has like that kind of like whimsical, like fairy tale-esque to it. Where like maybe like a miracle or two will happen, even though throughout the whole movie it's kind of mainly grounded in reality. Some miracles come about.
You could call the thief a bunch of names, but one of them that matched where he was living. What a perfect example! A piece of shit.
He's just great. Throughout the whole movie, like he just won't stop stealing.
Yeah.
And even when he does, like try to exchange, exchange things, it's usually like with an egg.
Yeah.
Like he'll just give them an egg, and then he'll get a newspaper or whatever, and then you find out later on that they're just eggs that he stole off of a counter at a cafe bar from the barista that he's friends with.
Yeah, yeah, that was interesting. It's funny how he'd use that as the most to trade with people or something. I'm guessing because that's what he could put in his pocket a lot easier.
It's food, and usually like the people that he is stealing from are like poor people selling in the street markets or in the circus or with other bums and homeless people like him.
Yeah. Also, like him using an egg, that could also be a spiritual meaning at times. Like I know an egg, obviously means it can be birth. Like maybe birth of a new relationship or birth of like him doing this. I would have to look more into that, but I do know egg also goes back to like symbolism into like Buddhism. They use egg shapes as well, to like.
Oh wow!
And also an egg shape can also represent the pineal gland. And the pineal gland is also known as the third eye because that's it's the shape of the third eye, right? So it's the pineal gland, and he's using an egg, and he's using it to his advantage, right? Using the egg, and he's thinking he could use his egg wherever he wants. Like, hey, I'll just get them with my egg,
That's interesting. That's also another. Alejandro trope. He always does. He always has like a mystical. he always has like those kind of mystical or philosophical, religious symbolism or ideologies. Mainly Christianity, but also borrows from Buddhism, Taoism.
Oh yeah,
all that.
Well, that's the thing. He loves not just one religion. He loves all religions. That's a great thing about it. I love how he transfers so much different information from religions. And that's what people need. They need to feel all those different energies. I agree. That's how you get into like metaphysics and like higher spirituality. Like when you're past all those like, oh, I represent that, I represent that. And like, no, let's represent everything. I love that symbolism though.
Yeah. You can't just stick with one. You got to have it all.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a couple times where they use tarot cards. Do you remember that? I thought
in the beginning mainly.
I was trying to figure that out. I feel like that's a short conversation because it wasn't used very much. Obviously, I think it was just used twice, right? Yeah,
we only really see two cards. I think the first one was the thief, and then when Daima, the main character bum, he follows the nephew to the sewer. He picks up a second one. I forget what the second tarot card was.
Remember, I told you, I think the first card... the first card might have been like a prince or a king, right?
But we didn't really get a good look at it because he just kind of like pulled it out of the deck and then...
My guess, though, was either a king or a prince. And then we got to the Fool card, which was later on. So that kind of makes sense because that guy was a prince too. The one that was drawing the deck or that lived under the sewer too with them, right?
Yeah, he was related to royalty. And that actually might have been the reason why, now that I think about it, it could have been the reason why that he went down to live in the sewers in the first place, because he was going to go see that room of lawyers talking about the inheritance of like what would happen if the prince who fell into a coma were to die. And I guess before even walking into that room, the first thing he does is he takes out his tarot cards, and then he just draws 3 cards, I think, right from the top of the deck.
Yeah.
It's like, whoa, he pre-shuffled or whatever.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
And then like those 3 from those 3 cards, I think he made the decision to just, screw all this. I'm just going to go live in the sewer. So quite a conclusion to draw.
Which we didn't really get like a hint of that from the cards because, like I said, from what I could see, he either got the prince card or a king card out of that. But either way, he still got a higher up card. But then it wasn't until he started walking across the bridge, right? And then was he like dropping cards? Is that what happened? Like how did the thief pick up that full card? Or did
he dropped it?
Okay, so
But it's not really made it clear if it fell like out of his coat or if he intentionally dropped it to lure somebody to follow him.
You know what? I want to go with the lure part
the luring,
because it felt like he was just dropping a bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
Was he dropping multiple cards?
No, I only saw the two. You would think he would drop more, but it was really just the two.
Okay.
And those scenes were really interesting as well because he doesn't talk.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have a line of dialogue throughout those two scenes.
Mm-hmm.
You hear the lawyers, like bickering in the background, but it's his character is all at first is all just kind of like, just kind of like he's just like a presence. He does the tarot cards. He walks in, does reads the tarot, and then he walks out. And then it's just kind of like, I guess that might be another like alluring thing for Diamond the Thief as well. Because he just kind of like follows him. Maybe he even recognized him.
Yeah.
But, we don't really get that. It's just kind of like we're just kind of like going along, watching these two dudes walk into a sewer with his dog Kronos.
Right, and you know how like you said that like this had to be more of a Hollywood film type Alejandro film, right? So
yeah, it's a more studio movie.
So when it comes down to the tarot cards, I don't think they wanted to put that much thought into it. But Alejandro's like, no, let's put some tarot cards in it. Like, so okay, let's pretend that was the Prince card because I know it's either Prince or King, but it doesn't matter. Let's say that was the Prince card. Anyways, time goes on. The thief gets the full card. Before you know it, you got the Prince card and the full card. Boom. Not much thinking is involved there. You just got the two characters get put together.
I see. Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Like, I feel like in an Alejandro, like, real film, he would have made it more interesting. You know what I mean? But in a Hollywood aspect, like, no, we don't want the audience to get that confused on these tarot cards. Yeah. So
everybody still has their clothes on.
Yeah. We're going to make it very short. Like, hey, this guy pulls that card. Oh, he throws a couple cards. Oh, the thief pulls out the full card. You know,
without really saying anything, he's just like, huh? And this speaks to me.
Yes, and without that much deep thinking from the audience. You know what I mean? Because Alejandro wants you to have deep thinking, but Hollywood don't.
Nope. Yeah. Hollywood wants to tell you exactly how to feel, when to feel it, and that's not really the way Alejandro rolls. He wants you to feel like all sorts of things all at once.
Manny, I think we just dissected the tarot scene without anybody ever noticing it. If they ever watch it, like, we literally just figured out. I'm telling you, like, it was because I wanted more out of that tarot card scene, and nothing else makes more sense than that little like story together with those. Yeah, like, okay,
I would say we got it down.
Yeah, I think we did. We decoded it. Moving on though.
So now they're just kind of like it just jumps to like some years later, right after that.
Yeah, several years
after
later.
that. And after that, it just follows the thief. He just kind of like goes around town. He visits a circus, steals some things. He visits a cafe, steals some eggs, gets ruffled up by the tall man and the short man from the circus there.
Yeah,
with his bag of rocks.
Getting chased by a dwarf, but also teams up with a guy that's like 7 feet tall. That was cool. I like that.
Interesting, like freak the mighty kind of pairing there.
I see some of these characters and I was liking the characters. I liked the characters so much I almost forgot about the story. It's like I wanted to go around that town. That's the way I felt, like to visit all these type of characters. What I mean? That was interesting to me.
It is like somewhat interesting, but unfortunately, there's something about the movie. It's just not as in depth. It's just all like surface level.
Yeah,
as a Jodorowsky movie.
Yeah, it's very surface,
especially compared to his other ones. And having a real Jodorowsky movie, you'd have a lot more going on because there's like some like peaks of it. at the circus. We have like those two guys. I guess they're having some sort of like crucifixion contest to see who can hang on the cross the longest.
That was great.
They say they're at 17 hours and they're still going. It's like, yo.
Was it 17 hours? Is that what he said?
Yep.
Holy shit.
But I feel like that the studios are like, no, that's the farthest, so we're gonna let you have with this.
I'm surprised they even gave him the shot, to even like shoot him. But that was definitely. I just love the whole circus part even being put in there. It was a very small circus compared to what we probably could have got.
Alejandro loves his circuses. They're almost in every one of his movies.
And what's funny is like the longer we talk about it, the more I could visualize how this movie could have been with Alejandro totally having control of it.
Exactly.
Right? Like I love the European like sci-fi mystery of it. Not sci-fi, but like just mystic version of it. It would have been a great little story for him to add to his catalog if he had total control. Because
and it probably would have been told better narratively as well as a film.
Oh yeah.
Because there's a lot of dialogue scenes that probably like it felt out of place, especially for a Jodorowsky movie, and that's how you can also kind of tell like he definitely didn't write for this movie. Because there's too many characters kind of like giving too much exposition, too much explaining things. Like there'll be like scenes where you have the thief doing like all this random things for 5 minutes in the market, and then he goes up to the newspaper lady, just dumps all this information in 5 seconds, and then walks away. And like we have another 2-minute scene where he does like wacky hijinks without saying a word.
Yeah.
And it's that like watching that, just like okay, that is not the Jodorowsky that I know.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like some of the scenes, some of the characters, some of the settings are better than the story, and it made me want more. I didn't even care about the story anymore. I just wanted to see more of these people. And let's talk about the set designs. I love the set designs. I love the places that they shot them at. The sewer scenes were very nice. Like, oh my god, like that. I
think you mentioned that it was shot on location in Poland.
Yeah, it was in Poland.
I don't know about the sewers though. I'm pretty sure. I feel like Alejandro is the kind of director where he scouts. He does like a really good job scanning out all these different kinds of locations. So I want to believe that most of the sets in the sewers are like actual like rainwater like pipelines.
But yeah, like on IMDb, that's all it says is Poland and UK is where like this was filmed. And I've never said I like sewer scenes, but man, they made good sewer scenes out of this film. And
they do make it almost look livable. Almost.
I want to say like half of the movie. Well, not half of the movie. Would you say half of the movie is in kind of like in the sewer scenes?
Maybe like between a quarter and a third.
Yeah. And
maybe even more. Maybe like a straight third.
And you know what? I thought I was gonna get annoyed by it being in the sewer scenes, but like when we get towards the end, one of the best parts of the film is in the sewer scene. You know what I mean? Like,
the whole to have that huge ass rainstorm and the whole thing just starts flooding.
Yeah, I never said I liked the sewer scene more than I've seen this scene, and that's where the intense part comes in. Near the end. But I love the set designs. I love like where they filmed the certain spots. That felt Alejandro to me is like the spots they chose. That's what
he knows
I liked
how to take
it.
He knows how to take a pretty picture.
Yeah, and isn't there a thing about him when it comes to lighting? Like he knows what colors to use, what lighting. Like we gotta have this type of lighting in a certain spot. Like even like when they're in the bar, I'm just like, I love this lighting. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah,
he always has like a clear vision of how he wants everything to look, and he always gets it figured out.
Yeah.
And like every scene looks like competently well shot and well lit.
And it's like it like pleasures my soul watching these settings. Like I'm just like, man, I want to live that setting. And that's what Alejandro's always been good at. He knows how to create a setting. So that's what I like about it on the settings part.
Unfortunately, though, I feel like that kind of ends to like all the things that I liked about the movie.
Everything we already talked about, basically.
Yeah, because like if you try to dive deeper into it, like in the story and like some of the characters.
Do you notice we avoided that?
Yeah,
we avoided the story.
Because it kind of ignores it for the most part, because mainly it's just a bunch of waiting. We're just waiting for the prince to finally die, and then he does, and it turns out that the nephew is not going to get anything out of the inheritance, and the nephew doesn't care.
Yeah,
because he's like, he's like the nephew is a very eccentric. Much like the prince was in the very beginning of the movie, played by Christopher Lee. Like he's just like riding on his like mechanical like wheel cow. He has like the boot. I think he has his family. I think it was his family that came over, and they're all like like real like royal like bougie type. He serves them dog bones, and he gives the dogs caviar. And then he tells them basically to fuck off and leave right after once they got pissed off. But the nephew is a lot like him too, but he is more of like a go with the flow. If I have to live in the sewers, I have to go live in the sewers, and I'll make the best of it. And I'm still royalty though, so I gotta have a servant, like help me around. He needs to go check the water levels for me.
Yeah.
But I definitely get the sense of like where the movie was going at, because Alejandro does like to have the enlightened character versus the kind of like the low life who has potential to find enlightenment as well.
Yeah.
But to me, it seems like both characters went into the extreme. Alejandro always has this grounded sense on both sides, and he himself, that's what he calls the dance of reality. But as human beings, you still, want to have that, connection with other people. You want to find love, you want to have sex, you want to have passion, you want to have desires, but and that's where the dance of reality kind of comes in, is you kind of like dance around it. You can have a little bit of both, as long as you don't go overboard with it. And I feel like that's what the nephew does. He kind of goes overboard. He's too like lavish, living in the sewers. The homeless thief though, Daima, he keeps like even telling him off, like he's always telling him off throughout the whole movie, but the nephew just keeps telling him back, oh no, you'll see it one day. Like, you're yelling at me right now, you're angry, but you can see that I do not care, because I have found peace, have found enlightenment within myself. And it's just, it doesn't feel as intelligent as it does in other Alejandro movies, because he's just too into it.
I totally agree with that. It's like, I felt like he was pretending to be intelligent.
Yeah. I felt like he was faking his enlightenment.
Yeah, I wasn't buying it. And that's probably why Alejandro, maybe because that's why he disowns it, because when it comes down to the start to the finish, you're just not believing it. You're you're not liking this guy. You don't even give a reason why you should like this guy, right? Like,
not really, no.
You don't understand anything when it comes to like him talking with his dead dog. Like, the only guy you like is actually the thief in the whole film. It's just like, this dude's trying to just be a good person, and it proves that to the actual end of the movie. Like, he tried. He even had a chance to escape the whole storm.
Mm-hmm. But he not really. I kind of disagree with that. He doesn't really
Which part?
of him trying to be a good person, because he doesn't really ever do anything throughout the whole movie to better himself. He's just always trying to find like the next. He always like finds something else he wants to steal. He wants to steal next.
No, remember that one time when the two dudes were attacking the female, he tried to fight back, but then she ended up being like all into it. He was like, "Oh, what the hell am I doing?" I mean, it seemed like he tried to do things. I
guess so.
I feel like he just had a very conflicted mind of what was good.
Yeah.
What was good, what was bad. You know, like
I know. I get what you mean. Yeah.
he doesn't understand stealing is bad. What he understands if a female's getting, taking control over, he's like, okay, I'll step in. So that part of him was good, but he was very conflicted on what was good and what was bad.
Yeah, and therefore that makes it like a kind of a conflicting character for the audience, because it's just
exactly.
You don't know like what he really wants.
Yeah, you don't,
because everybody else around him, everyone he knows, it always seems like he's in debt with everybody, and he doesn't really. He always tells them, "Oh, I'll pay you back," but then he does it kind of like, and by just finding something else to steal. Much like Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems.
Right.
And it doesn't make him, it makes him an unlikable character, really, for the most part.
What do you think of his connection though between Dima and the prince, like
the nephew?
Yeah, like
I forget. They said the nephew's name a couple times. It's like a really weird European name. I can't even try to pronounce it.
I'm gonna try. It's like Malagre, one of those. Malagre. Well, we'll just say the prince and Dima.
But he's not a prince though. He's the nephew.
Well, that's what IMDb pronounces him as. They put Christopher Lee as the uncle.
Yeah, but that's Christopher Lee was the prince.
Well, I guess the other guy became the prince. I don't know. That's what IMDb is saying. They announced him the prince.
Huh. But then why is he hiding out in the sewers if his uncle is in a coma?
It's weird.
IMDb might be wrong. Then we might have to go and check the YouTube video.
They're like, they don't know what to put him as. Well, if you think about it, like maybe he was the prince, but he just lived underground. Like maybe he was.
But like royalty doesn't really work that way with nephews. It's always the direct lineage. So like father, king, son, prince.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't know how they wanted to put it. It was very confusing characters and positions, as I would say.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that part was confusing on their end, not on our end. You know what I mean? Like we were trying to figure out who was who at the beginning, but we start to get it. But the prince thing was confusing, right?
Yeah.
Like if IMDb is saying one thing, we're trying to think one thing, and then the movie is saying another thing.
The movie that was then like delivering an incorrect message to me, or like not presenting it in a way that I could understand it.
But you got to remember too, though, Dima, he was also treating him like if he was a prince, right?
But only because he was waiting for him to get the inheritance from his uncle after he died.
Right.
And then like once he does die, and finds out that he's not getting anything. That's when he leaves him. Yep.
That was such a
that's
wild
when
scene.
that's when he leaves him and then goes on for that boat job that the bartender was telling him about.
That was an exciting part when he realized he was not getting nothing.
Oh yeah.
I felt so bad.
Yeah, a very dramatic dialogue scene there. That was pretty good.
And if anyone's listening now, you could still watch it on YouTube right now.
Yeah.
For a decent quality. With was it Spanish subtitles?
Yeah, huge Spanish subtitles.
Huge Spanish subtitles. And I'm surprised. Like it wasn't that bad of a movie to be suppressed. You know what I mean? Like
it wasn't
like
bad. It just did. It's just kind of. I don't even want to say that it fell flat. It's just.
It seems like somebody
constantly on that line and doesn't really escalate or de-escalate overall.
But Manny, it feels like somebody wants it to go away. You know what I mean? Like that's why they didn't put it on DVD.
It's probably Alejandro.
Either Alejandro or the movie studios. Like it has to be one of those two. Those are the enemies, right? Or the not enemies, but antagonists, protagonists.
The oppressors, suppressors.
Yeah. One of them wants it to go away. And we got to watch it. And that's what I'm proud of. I had a good time. I had a good time watching it.
Me too.
I know it wasn't the best story, but I had fun time watching it. I was in the sewer the most of the time watching it, but you know, it's a sewer. It's a sewer movie. You get to get out of that hole at a certain time. It was very interesting. I felt like I was watching a homeless person at the same time too. Like, what would they do with their day? You know, like how would it go? And that's what I liked about it. Like I got a different experience out of it.
Yeah, following the story of an outsider.
Yes,
exactly. Of like a society.
So do you want to add anything else to it?
No, it does have, you know, it's, you know, Alejandro essence,
right?
But it's overshadowed by, you know, just a lot of underwhelmingness.
So IMDb give this a 5.9 out of 10. What would you like to give it?
I would have to give it a 5.
A 5?
Okay. It has its qualities to it, but there's too much that it doesn't, you know, outshine, you know, everything that's kind of underwhelming of it.
You could definitely tell it does not fit an Alejandro film. It's definitely an outcast.
Like I would probably watch it again, but not as like something to kind of like admire for a second viewing. Not like a guilty pleasure kind of viewing, but I guess just kind of like you know, it's been like a few years. Maybe I'll check it out again. But
so you give it a 5?
Yep, 5 out of 10.
I feel
That's
like
how I feel.
I want to create a new rule though. I feel like if you want to give it a second viewing, it has to be above 5.
Yeah.
So you want
I feel like
you want to give it a 6?
The way I see it, like for it to be a 6, it has to be kind of like almost a guilty pleasure to watch.
Guilty pleasure.
Yeah, because like 5, I feel like 5 is just the surface. It's just the average. What would you rate it?
So IMDb gave it a 5.9. You said you give it a 5?
Yep.
I'm gonna give it a. Shit. This is a tough one. I really enjoy the settings. I want to give it
something to enjoy.
I'm gonna give it a 6.5.
Okay.
If the story was a lot better and it was more energetic and Alejandro had more control, oh boy, it would have been a 9 or a 10, definitely. But I give it a 6 only because of the settings. Alejandro put his input into it. It's like it's like every scene I was waiting for something more to happen, but it just would not happen the way I wanted it to. Alejandro, watching his films, he would not even create that thought in my head, or like, hey, the story should go this way, or the actor should act that way. No, I'm watching the film. I'm just like, this is perfect. Like everything that's happening perfect. I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen next. I feel weird.
Everything's like going on. You have no idea what's going on, but it's happening as it should be.
Yeah, I'm like, and I'm just going with it. I'm like, okay, whoa, I got through that scene. I'm ready for the next scene. What's gonna happen next? Yeah,
bring it on. I'm ready. Let's go.
Exactly. He made me take extra breaths through his films, and you know, when you show me his films, I'm just like, oh shit, like I don't know what to expect.
Cannot wait to see his newer movie, Psycho Magic, A Healing Art.
That comes out
when
in
it comes
August,
out in
right?
August. Yeah.
Hell yeah, my birthday month.
Yeah, that's right.
Leo season. anyways, that wraps it up for me on the Rainbow Thief. It was a great film for what its aspects were, but if you find the flaws, you find the good things about it. It's a half and half film. It really is.
Yeah.
It's a perfect example of what a half and half film is. It's also a perfect example of when a director is not getting along with the production of the, you know, or what do you even call that? The director versus what?
Studio, yeah,
The studio.
like you were
There you
saying,
go.
production.
Yeah, the studio versus the director. That is a perfect example of why something cannot be worked out, but you see the differences in it. That's all I got to say about that.
If you're a fan of Jodorowsky, you should definitely, I would say, you know, give it check it out.
You have to.
Maybe not have to, but you know, it's definitely worth it if you're a fan.
Right.
Because you'll actually be able to kind of like point out, oh, maybe, you know, this is what he was going for, but studio doesn't want to change the script or the dialogue, so he was just stuck with it.
Yeah.
But there's still like a lot of scenes to like about it. I especially, you know, enjoyed the flooding scene in the sewers and all that. So just, you know, that stuff was incredible.
Yeah.
Everything else around it, maybe not so much. Just leave it at that. 5 out of 10 versus your 6.5 out of 10.
6.5. Hey, very close to ratings though.
Yeah, very close.
Very
that
close.
evens it out to like a nice light 6.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely makes it worth a watch.
Exactly. Yep. Still check it out. It's still on YouTube if you guys want to watch it. There's a couple of different versions on there. Might be the easiest version of you to watch. If not, then you're gonna have to go buy it somewhere on eBay from some other country, because I will tell you now, it's not on Amazon. It's not on any streaming Netflix, Hulu, or any other providing services. So you're gonna have to do what you gotta do, and you gotta watch it either on YouTube or you're gonna buy it.
It's a rarity, but not in, you know, the
Not
nice
on
kind that you would
Exactly.
think.
It's a rarity until it's on YouTube, until it gets deleted. But
all right.
yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that does it for this episode this week.
Yep.
Thank you everybody for listening.
Thank you.
Please, you know, tune in next time on the next episode of Monolith and Mythos, the Monster Studio podcast. I'm Manuel. He's Trey Spells.
Trey
and we're out.
Spells. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.